everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Julia, and in today's video we're going to be discussing something that has been a conversation for such a long time on social media. And when I mean a long time, I mean eons, but it's now really made its rounds over the past couple of weeks, and this has to do with Gen Z looking older than millennials. So this was really sparked by a TikToker named Jordan Howlett. Jordan is a very famous TikToker. He's a comedian, and he basically came on TikTok one day talking about the fact that Gen Z looks way older than millennials, and it's really because of the stress. And Jordan is a 26-year-old Gen Z, so he's actually a year older than me. And he looks like he's in his 40s. Like, he's always talking about how people mistake him for being so much older than his age. Although I do think that, yes, he looks older. I also think it's his cadence. But anyway, I'm just gonna play a snippet of the TikTok here. But before we get into that, I just want to call attention to this video that I posted on my vlog channel. It was just a day in my life as a UX designer. And I'm just trying to show more of that side of my life, the fact that that is my job outside of YouTube, and I really enjoy it, and just more about my life in the 20s and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that kind of content, you can go over to my second channel. I'm really going to try to be more consistent on there this year, but you can definitely head over there. I have the channel on the screen, and the link will be in the comment section.
Gen Z is like aging really rapidly.
It is mainly because of the stress. Come here. We live in a time nowadays where millennials look way younger for their age, while Gen Z looks way older for their age. If you don't believe me, I'm Gen Z. Get closer. I am Gen Z, and nobody ever believes me. When my mom and I walk out in public, people think that my mom is my younger sister. Right? When I tell people, oh, I'm gonna go hang out with my family, they think I'm talking about my children. I don't have kids, right? I'm talking about my parents. I'm still the child. Does that make sense? I'll put it to you like this. Zendaya is older than me. Tom Holland is older than me. That's, you know what I'm saying right now? There was one time I wanted an autograph from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right? I was standing for hours for this autograph, and when he walked up to me, I said, can you please sign this poster? It's for Jordan, right? He then took it and put, "Dear Jordan, your dad is a great guy. He stood out here for hours," and then gave it back to me. And before I can correct him, he looked at me and said, "Times were way more difficult back when we were kids, am I right?" And then he tapped my shoulder and left. Dwayne is 52. I am 26. What I'm saying is, so Gen Z definitely looks older. I'm not gonna lie to you.
So I find these generation wars just hilarious, because it's generation after generation after generation. Right now, it's Gen Z's realizing how crazy Gen Alpha is. But you know, once Gen Alpha gets old enough, you know they're gonna be coming for the next generation. Gen Beta, I don't even know what the next generation is called, but this is a constant cycle. And basically, my personal opinion, I don't think Gen Z looks any older than millennials. I even polled you guys on my YouTube channel, on my community tab, and all y'all basically agreed that we don't think that we look any older than millennials. So like, for example, I'm 25, I'll be 26 this year, and I get mistook for being like anywhere from 16 to 19 on a regular basis. I remember I traveled to the UK last year, and what was so interesting is when I traveled, when I went outside the country, I noticed people pointing out my age a lot more than even Americans do. Like, I've been hearing it my whole life, so I'm not a stranger to it regardless. But in the UK, I felt like when I went through customs, I got it. When I was at church, I got it. When I was visiting family, like, and I went to church with them, they were saying something. I remember when I got to the airport, there was some issue with me checking in my bag. One of the ladies there basically told my cousin that, oh, I'm like an unaccompanied minor or something, I don't know. And I was like, I'm not a minor, I'm 24. And she was so shook. So I've been getting the whole I look younger for my age forever. Jordan attributes Gen Z looking older than millennials because of the stress. And I think this could be attributed to a lot of things, like the economic conditions we're dealing with, the job pressures we're dealing with, student debt, all these different issues that are pressing Gen Z right now that are making our transition into adulthood a lot less smooth than generations past, to be frank. But what I think is so crazy about these stressors that Gen Z, especially older Gen Z, are dealing with is the fact that we're dealing with it with the hyper presence of social media. On social media, you're constantly seeing people succeeding, right? People are always posting their highlight reel. They're posting the best parts of their life, their accomplishments, what they're proud of, things like that. And when you're constantly inundated with that, especially if you're chronically online, you're going to become susceptible to comparison and also feeling like you haven't done enough with your life, or feeling incapable. I mean, you'll be 25, 26 thinking that you should have been a millionaire by now, you know? And I think that's something that our generation has dealt with on a unique basis that past generations have not. That could cause stress in a lot of different ways. You know, that can cause stress feeling like you're constantly behind, you know, because I think you deal with that regardless of your age. But when you have social media at your fingertips, where you're not just seeing people in your like local town or your maybe place of work, but you're seeing people from all across the country, all across the world at all times of the day. So it's a different pressure that a lot of Gen Z people are going through. But even with that, I'm just gonna say that there are so many factors that could play into you looking older or younger for your age. For example, you have genetics, exercise, whether you smoke or not, how much sleep you get. You know, again, like I said before, I'm always being mistook for a teenager. And I think a lot of that has to do with genetics because my parents look super young for their age. My dad gets mistook for being in his 50s, early to maybe mid 50s, but my dad's gonna be 65 in May, you know? And my mom, she's since passed, but she lived to be 52. And back then, like back when I was in high school and stuff, and people saw my mom, they were so shook that she was in her 50s. She would always tell me not to tell people her age, but I was like, you know what, who cares? Like, so I think it's just a genetics thing. And like I said, there's so many other varying factors that catch up with you as you get older. You know, there's so many like health conditions, for example, that doctors recommend you get tested for once you get older, but not necessarily when you're younger. When you're younger, you're just a lot more susceptible to good health. You don't really have to deal with a lot of the health issues that our parents and grandparents have to deal with because typically those things don't arise in your youth, they come when you're older. So I think a lot of the habits you establish for yourself now are gonna affect you later, you know, which is what everyone should be mindful of, you know what I mean? The habits you establish for yourself now are gonna catch up with you later. If you have a bad diet now and you make a habit of it and you don't try to break it now, it's gonna catch up with you in 10, 15, 20 years. I also think in general, just some people just happen to just look older or younger. Like it could just be your facial structure. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like some people role in whether you look younger for your age, as well as how you carry yourself. I think how you carry yourself makes a big difference as well. Again, a lot of people think I'm really young, like a teenager, but when they hear me speak or when they hear me explain maybe my job or things I'm doing for the day, they're like, oh, wow, you're actually grown. And I'm like, yeah, as much as I can be. And so I think the way you carry yourself plays a big role in it as well. So now getting into social media's role. So I just want to say again, we should all know this by now, but social media is not real life. It very rarely is real. Everyone is posting their highlight reel. And yes, we have seen a lot more authenticity on TikTok and different social platforms over the past couple of years, which is great, but there's still a lot of fakeness constantly swirling on social media, and you really have to use discernment to know when to really take something seriously versus just kind of leaving it where it is. So as it pertains to aging, we have so many things that people do to try to avoid looking a certain age. You know, there's beauty filters, there's Facetune. I mean, even TikTok has like these filters that look so realistic. So there's always something that can cloud how you truly look. And then let's not forget all the cosmetic procedures that people do to look younger. Again, a lot of people just don't like aging. Aging is just seen as ghastly. It is ghastly. It is ghastly in our generation and just throughout history, not just Gen Z, but all generations have struggled with aging. Aging is one of those things that's really weird. It's like we respect the fruits of aging, so wisdom and, you know, I guess knowing about life and kind of knowing the game, being able to really say you played the game. But then it's seen so negatively because, again, people don't like looking older. You know, you spend your whole life trying to grow up, and then once you're finally grown up, you just want to be young. You know, so it's always this whole weird thing with aging. I also want to call attention to a concept called technostress. So technostress is basically the stress induced by constant connectivity and the rapid pace of digital information. So I feel like if people really are aging quicker, I feel like our screens have something to do with it, okay? Especially, let's say if you're up at night and you got to go to sleep, and you're just on your screen, the blue light is just messing with the melatonin and you're not getting enough rest. I'm very guilty of that, okay? I'm fixing it now, but I'm very guilty of that. especially working from home. I usually take advantage of it when I know I shouldn't, but I think that's a big thing that could also induce aging or just induce unhealthiness in your face and with your eyes and things like that. I also think it's just information overload that's just causing your brain to work overtime. So I just think that when you're constantly consuming social media over hours on end, I can't imagine the information overload your brain is going through, your body's going through. And I don't know, I feel like, I personally think, I haven't looked this up medically, but I wouldn't be surprised if that could contribute to aging or stress on your body. And as I said before, there's so many TikTok filters and things like that that can change how somebody looks. Like I said, there's like the aging filter on TikTok where even though that makes you look like a grandma or whatever, these filters look so real, so it's really hard to deduce what's actually real and what's actually fake. So you're over here thinking these people look so young and look so beautiful and youthful and things like that, but a lot of times it's a filter they're using. I also think some people look older for their age simply because they want to. So kind of like I said earlier, I think how you carry yourself. I personally think especially like the baddie aesthetic that a lot of women have had for so many years, so many, like at least a decade plus, I think that ages people a lot. And I remember back when I was in college, like when I was young, I remember, I guess because I was maybe more innocent and doe-eyed, I guess. I remember just being like, why does everybody want to look so old? Why does everybody want to dress so old? Why does everybody want to do their makeup like this? Da, 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 da. And then I tried to follow the trend for a couple of years until I found my individuality in college and as an adult. So, you know, like I think that's another thing too. Like look at Kylie Jenner and how she was pretty much the pioneer of that aesthetic. I won't say Kylie was the pioneer, but I can definitely say she popularized it amongst young girls. And, you know, now, to be frank, she looks so much older. She's only 26, and that's no shade to Kylie. It's just, she just does not look her age. Again, like I said, I think especially on social media nowadays, youth is something that is coveted. And aging is seen as ghastly and things that people want to run away from. People want to run away from aging. But really when I think about it, I just think, again, a lot has to play into how you look physically and as you age, your environment, what you eat, what you're consuming, and all things like that. But I think what's honestly really sad is the fact that people just don't want to embrace aging gracefully when really aging gracefully is a privilege that you're not really entitled to. You're not entitled to get older. You're not entitled to grow old and have grays and see all your children grow up and your grandchildren grow up. There's so many people that don't have that opportunity. And sometimes when I think about these debates, as interesting as they are, I do kind of think of the more bigger picture of it all and the fact that tomorrow is not promised. And I think, honestly, sometimes instead of pressuring our bodies to look a certain way, our faces to look a certain way, we just need to give it up for our bodies keeping us alive. I mean, have you seen what your body does when you're sick? Have you seen like what your immune system, like the way your B cells, your T cells, the way they kick into action to get rid of viruses? I mean, it's insane. Like our bodies do so much for us. And I think sometimes we just need to celebrate our bodies for just being what they are. They work overtime to keep us alive. I mean, who knows what our bodies are protecting us from that we didn't even realize. So again, this is always going to be a thing. The over concern about aging and things like that, that's always going to be a thing. But I really do hope that people can appreciate their bodies and just being alive more. I also want to add that there is no substantial evidence to prove that Gen Z really looks older than any other generation. There's no substantial evidence to prove that. You got a lot of millennials bigging themselves up like, oh, I look so much younger and da-da-da-da, and good for you. That means you're taking good care of yourself. Just keep it up. All right, just keep it up. Maybe drop some tips if you want for the younger people to catch some gems and then keep it moving. You know, it doesn't need to be this whole like, I don't know, this whole debate or this whole like, oh my gosh, look at me. Like some people are just getting so into themselves about it. And I'm just like, it is what it is. Like I said, I think as far as aging goes, it really is about your environment, your genetics, how you take care of yourself. And I also think it's a mindset too. I think a lot of people want to purposely look older or younger and they'll either age themselves up or age themselves down to look a certain way. But as I said, I think ultimately the most important thing is that you take good care of yourself and that you're mindful of your habits and that you're intentional. I think those are the most important things. And the generation debates always like make me laugh. They're insane, but I also love talking about them because I think it's so fascinating. The one thing I have to say about the generation debates that I really enjoy is that every generation I think goes through very similar things. But the thing is we go through them in very different ways. And I think that's what makes the the debates and the talks so fascinating is we're all going through the same like puberty and different, you know, just human issues, but it's all in different ways as we advance. So I just find those comparisons always so fascinating to talk about and dissect. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation over here about aging. I'd love if you drop in the comments what your opinions on aging are, as well as this whole conversation. And thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.